district attorneys are already starting to investigate the TSA. Indictments need to be filed by grand juries, and individuals and groups need to intensify their legal efforts. And state governments must use their 9th and 10th Amendment powers to nullify the unconstitutional federal rules and regulations and throw the feds out of their state airports. It's simply not in their jurisdiction. We must remember that the Supremacy Clause is only in effect when the federal government is acting within the confines of the Constitution, which it clearly is not in this case. We must ensure that nobody from the lowest TSA grunt to even the president himself is above the law. Whoever carries out orders, pat-downs, or body scanners without warrants or probable cause needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We mustn't just do like we did with the torture issue and just prosecute a few underlings and just let the big boys get away with it. I mean, President George W. Bush, he's basically said that if he were elected, he would order torture again. Yet he gets away with it, while a few lowly people, lowly grunts, just get thrown to the wolves. I mean, it's just... Anyway, all airport employees, including pilots and flight attendants, and yes, even passengers, should be allowed to be armed. We as law-abiding citizens have the right, as protected by the Second Amendment, to keep and bear arms so that we may defend ourselves. This right becomes a mere privilege if citizens are only confined to keeping and bearing arms in their homes, and that they'll all be registered as part of some federal database. Turns the concept of innocent until proven guilty on its head, by assuming that all gun owners are potentially dangerous criminals before they've even committed a crime. The evidence is clear that an armed citizenry is the best deterrent to criminal as well as terrorist activity. Now, the TSA must be abolished, and airport security must be left entirely to the airports themselves. When you go to any restaurant, bar, sports stadium, bus station, mall, or other public venue, 9 times out of 10, it's the owners of that particular establishment who are responsible for providing security, and not the government. Yet most of those places are still relatively safe without having the civil liberties abuses of airport security. It's because the owners of these places have a direct incentive to keep their customers safe without alienating them by turning their establishments into glorified prisons. Now, the government has no such incentive because it can simply extort more money from the taxpayers to fund whatever wasteful boondoggle they want and pay off their buddies, and since it illegitimately claims a monopoly on force, claims it has the right to arrest, brutalize, and even kill you if you don't do what they say. That's because more and more Americans have chosen not to fly, which is losing the business at some airports have decided to kick out the TSA themselves. And good for them. I'll gladly fly at any airport that has grown a pair of balls and decided to kick out these criminals. And we need to change our foreign policy from an interventionist policy of propping up dictators, having permanent bases on nearly every country on the planet, and sticking our own noses into everything. We must do as our founder suggested and mind our own damn business overseas. Talk and trade with whoever is willing to talk and trade with us, and only go to war as a last resort. I know one wants to talk about this. Well, a lot of people don't, so people like that, but we must have a truly independent investigation of the 9/11 attacks. People don't want to admit this, even be possible, but it seems like 9/11 was an inside job. Now, this is not to say there are not real terrorists out there, but nations and outside forces such as banks and corporations have been manipulating world events to their advantage for thousands of years. Members of the 9/11 Commission openly admit that information was deliberately hidden from them. World Trade Center Building 7 was never hit by a plane, but it still fell. Buildings that are fortified in a similar manner have burned at much higher temperatures for far longer than the Twin Towers, but still did not fall. NORAD was clearly ordered to stand down on 9/11 when it otherwise would have been ordered to shoot down the hijacked planes. The government refuses to release the red boxes on the hijacked planes, which have everything said on the planes up until they crashed recorded. Governments for thousands of years have again staged events in order to suit their agenda. Hitler staged the burning of the Reichstag Parliament building to justify stripping the German people of their last few freedoms they had left. He took homeless people and dressed them in Polish uniforms to justify his invasion of Poland. The U.S. government planned Operation Northwoods, where U.S. soldiers and intelligence agents were to carry out attacks on American civilian and military targets posing as Cuban soldiers. A plan which thankfully had the brakes put on it by President Kennedy, may he rest in peace. Our last true president. The CIA carried out Operation Ajax to overthrow Mohammad Mossadegh and replace him with the Shah because he nationalized the Iranian oil industry. President FDR placed sanctions and trade embargoes and blockades on Japan to provoke them into attacking us so we would enter World War II. Now, you can argue that we should plenty of good reasons why we should have entered, but come on, folks, the ends don't justify the means. And it's been public record since the Iran-Contra scandal that the CIA has been smuggling and selling cocaine and other narcotics, and it's a significant part of their black budget, which is a secret multi-billion-dollar budget that the CIA uses for operations that would not normally be approved by Congress. To ignore this is to ignore physics as well as history. Inside job or not, the public have a right to know what really happened on 9/11. And the government has a reason why it doesn't want us to know. Now this is pretty much what I think should all be done. If you have any suggestions, gladly make them. But this is Jerry. I will talk to all of you later. I will see you.